I think one of the most important messages that someone with long-term sobriety can put out there to the fellowship and to its members is that there are many, many, many old timers, hate that phrase, seasoned members of Alcoholics Anonymous, long timers, whatever you want to call it, sitting in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, dying. And so the still suffering alcoholic is not just the newcomer. It can be us too.
I've heard it through the grapevine.
Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine half-hour variety hour featuring the collected voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Sam, an alcoholic in Palm Springs, California.
And I'm Don, an alcoholic in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Don, so good to see you, man.
What do you say, Sam?
Don, you know I've got a daily quote from the Grapevine app.
A Dairy Queen cup?
That's what it, I mean, it's a DQ. I've got a Dairy Queen from the GV app.
You can read them in the Grapevine app every day on your phone or sign up to receive daily quotes in your inbox at aagrapevine.org. What is it, Sam?
This is from Insanity B, written by a member in Prague, Czechoslovakia in February 2005.
I see. Insanity B.
It's in the beginner's book, Getting and Staying Sober in AA. I have come to believe that my drinking insanity is only one form of the craziness to which we AAs are prone. I call it Insanity A. Insanity B is finding out what works for you and then not doing it. That's a good one.
How many fears do I have in the big book?
Over 100.
I would suspect I've got over 100 forms of insanity, but certainly one of them is knowing what works and then quit doing it because I just don't want to. That's what it always comes down to me. I just don't want to do it.
Lack of self-discipline. Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a lack of self-discipline-aholic.
Yeah, I do like prayer and meditation. I struggled for 20 years to do prayer and meditation in the morning. I was just trying to do 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and I wouldn't do it. And so I put sticky notes in my truck, so I would do it when I got to the truck. But now I've gotten to the place I will do it because I've finally just realized in a meeting one night, the reason I'm not doing it, the reason this is so hard is because I don't want to do it.
That's the same as you were being told to clean up your room when you were a kid and it was a hard thing to do because you didn't want to do it.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Many years ago, we had the National AA Technology Workshop in North Carolina, and I got to play a part of helping that happen there. And I knew that it was going to be a really stressful thing, getting this all set up and doing it. And so I picked up a practice of meditation with an earnestness I'd never had before. And it worked.
It worked?
It worked.
Okay.
And so as soon as the conference was over, I stopped.
Yes. Because I feel good now. And besides, I don't want to do it. So I had to realize that it's just the same as when I first stopped drinking. And I'd say, I don't want to go to a meeting. Nope, you don't have a choice. You have to go. Those insanities. The various insanities.
Don, later on, we're going to read another daily quote, and we're going to discuss it with our guest.
Oh, all right. And who is our guest?
Well, today we welcome Rick W. from Grapevine, Texas. Ooh, cool name. Yeah.
Grapevine. Oh, yeah. I like Grapevine, Texas.
Yeah. And after that, we'll start with a new monthly segment for 2026, using the traditions in our lives. But first, the news.
The Grapevine and Lavinia apps on both iOS and Android are now available in most parts of the world, including Mexico, Central America, South America, Asia, Australia, and Africa. The apps will launch in the European Union in early 2026. Your subscriptions to the Grapevine and Lavinia through the apps help keep the Grapevine podcast growing and reaching more AA members all around the globe.
In addition to the tens of thousands in the US and Canada, in a recent month, we had over 2,000 downloads from 87 other countries, Don. Shout out to those listeners.
Woohoo! Yeah, really.
And a special thanks to everyone who subscribes.
Hey guys, my name is Rick and I'm an alcoholic. I was blessed with the gift of sobriety on November 17th, 1987. My home group is the Get in the Car group of Alcoholics Anonymous located in Grapevine, Texas. And for those of you who don't know where Grapevine is, it is a suburb halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Do they have a lot of grapevines there?
Well, I can say they do have a big wine festival every year.
There you
they
go.
do.
I love the name of your home group.
We started Get in the Car. In fact, we're celebrating our 6th anniversary in January. And when the group of people who came together to start it, we were trying to figure out what name we wanted. And it all came down to, well, we started off with 15 names and it all came down to 2. Get in the car and get in the truck. Because, I mean, we're in Texas.
Because it's Texas.
Because it's Texas, right? But I am grateful that Get in the Car won out.
I love that.
I remember when I first got sober, my sponsor, one night after a meeting, we were washing our coffee cups and putting them up. And my sponsor asked me, he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to get in the car and go home." He said, "Well, you're going to get in the car for sure, but you're not going home." And I said, "Where are we going?" And he said, "We're going to go help another alcoholic." Because back in those days, in '86, when I walked in, we used to do 12-step calls. Right. And so we would literally get in the car and go help, another still suffering alcoholic. So from a very early age of sobriety, I knew what that phrase meant.
Well, what was bringing you into the rooms of AA in '86?
I did not come to Alcoholics Anonymous because I thought I had a drinking problem. My denial was huge. It was strong. I came because a dear friend of mine, the Dallas court systems had invited him to Alcoholics Anonymous. And he called me one day and he was like, "I have to go to AA and I don't want to go by myself. Will you go with me?" And I said, "Sure, I'll go with you. I'm not an alcoholic, but I'll be happy to go with you." So again, the denial was strong.
It's just a support person.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm altruistic like that.
Yes.
Right.
And you heard something there?
The real true story is that we got in the car and we drove about 20 miles outside of Dallas to a little town called Arlington because we didn't want to have no one seeing us walk into a meeting.
Of course not.
Yeah.
When we walked in the door, there was this old man. He must have been 150 years old. He walks up to me and he goes, "My name is Bob. I'm an alcoholic. Are you an alcoholic?" And I went, "No, I'm not, but he is." and by, I didn't know at the moment how profound it was, but Bob said to me something that I hold on to this day. He said, "This is a closed meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous for people who have a desire to stop drinking. What I'd like to ask you to do is to take this newcomer packet that had pamphlets in it and come back and pick your friend up in an hour." I did that. We ended up going to a different meeting in Dallas the next night. I read some of the stuff in the pamphlets, and I began to see the denial breaking. I began to see the rigorous honesty setting in because I didn't really think I had a drinking problem, but in God's infinite wisdom, he put me right where I needed to be. But when I walked into that first meeting in Dallas, I was like, I like this. I don't understand this. I'm not ready to admit that I'm an alcoholic yet, but I like what I feel in the room. I saw people smiling. I saw lights in their eyes. And I knew at that time in my life, I didn't have that.
But, some people feel like the idea of having a closed meeting is very off-putting to people. Were you put off and like going, "Well, they don't want me here.
I didn't know any different, right? And so no, I wasn't put off. And Steve, he could have cared less. He didn't really want to be there anyway. In the end of that story is we ended up going for the next 7 nights to that group in Dallas, which eventually became my home group. And on night 8, he called me and he said, "I don't think I'm going to go." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not the one that Dallas court systems are making go, but that's fine. But if you don't mind me asking, can you tell me why?" And he said, "I just can't deal with the God thing, the higher power thing." Right.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, that's cool. If you don't mind, I'm going to continue going." And I've been going for 38 years. And unfortunately, today that man is dead. So I'm convinced, to your question, Don, was I off put? Today, I'm not. God used that man to get me into the room so that I could see what y'all had to teach me.
Was there a reticence to do any of the work when you came in?
Reticence is the wrong word. Absolute,
Your
obstinate
face.
belligerence. No, I didn't want to
Belligerence.
do anything. I didn't want to do
Yeah.
anything. I remember I sat and listened to people in meetings saying over and over and over, get a sponsor, work the steps, get a sponsor, work the steps, get a sponsor. And I was just like, shut up. I don't want to hear this. And here's the reason why. In very short order, I remember to this day sitting in meetings, putting my $1 back in those days
Mhm.
in the basket when it went around, thinking to myself, this is the cheapest therapy in town, right? Still not 100% sure, but I really truly thought that I'm going to let y'all do the work. And then I'm going to let it seep in through osmosis, really, because I don't want to do the work. And I always tell people that when you look at the first word in the first step, we, when Bill wrote that word, I really truly thought he meant y'all, not me,
Yeah.
right? I was obstinate and belligerent for sure.
Was there a delay then in getting a sponsor?
Some of my early sobriety is black to me as well and very dark. I do remember, if I were to try to pinpoint it, I would say maybe about 6 months in, I finally just got tired of listening to y'all and I thought, well, I know how to shut them up. I'll get a sponsor.
Did you feel like
And
you were an alcoholic at that point?
by that time I did. And that may be one of the reasons that I was like, okay, maybe I really do need this because these people are happy. But even though I got my first sponsor, I made everyone understand, especially him, that this was a temporary sponsor.
Okay.
I wasn't willing to commit to anything.
I have to confess, I'm enough of an old timer that I usually say when people come up, do you want temporary sobriety?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Krusty.
Let's commit. Let's commit. Come on and commit. You can get another sponsor. What was the first obstacle that AA presented to you that you worked through and then got to the other side and saw this thing really works?
So great question, Don. I'm going to answer that two ways. I'm going to answer it first with what wasn't an obstacle for me. That is typically we hear a lot is an obstacle, which is steps 2 and 3 or God. Somewhere along the line, I had this belief that God and church were a package deal.
Right.
So, and when I recognized that, and really what it was that church wasn't working for me, I put my Bible and God and Jesus and all of that up on a shelf because I want to have nothing to do with it. Then I went out and started my drinking career. Well, it was already going on during that period, but was continuing my drinking career. And when I finally hit bottom and came in, I didn't have a problem with steps 2 and 3 because I had already had some knowledge. Even though I didn't like a lot of what I heard, I had some knowledge and I did believe. But the biggest obstacle for me first was the 4-step inventory. And the only reason that it was an obstacle for me was because I had done things in my life that I simply was going to take to my grave. I wasn't willing to have that level of honesty. By that point, had gotten another sponsor who I had made my more permanent sponsor. He did something with me that I do with my sponsees today. He sat down, walked me through the book, the instructions on the 4 steps, showed me how to do it. And he said, now, before you leave, we're going to get your 5th step on the calendar. And it
Ah,
was 2 weeks.
Oh, I like that.
2 weeks. And
no foot dragging there.
I absolutely loved that. I mean, because how many times do we hear today
Yes.
members say, well, I've been working on my 4-step for 6 months. And I'm like, really?
Step 4 made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
I love that the deadline was created when you started the 4th step.
Correct.
The deadline is what got me to finish my 4th step. I dragged my feet for probably 3 months because I'd work on my 4th step and I'd feel better for a while.
Yeah.
And then I'm like feeling bad again. So, okay, I'll do some more work. And then finally, I made the 5th step date with my sponsor.
Step 5 admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs.
And then I had no choice but to buckle down and finish the work.
You hear people talking about being afraid of the 4th step. And I just think that is an absolute misnomer. There is no reason to be afraid of the 4th step if for no other reason that it's nothing more than a list. right? It's
Yeah.
nothing, and nobody knows that information more than you. Now, jokingly, I will follow that up with, to your point, Don, if you want to be afraid of something, be afraid of the fifth step, but I mean, but just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick, 38 years.
Hmm.
I can only imagine, actually, I know there's some general service that you've done during those years.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about what you got from it as well as we're able to give?
I've done an enormous amount of general service, service below the group level, as we say on the service triangle, doing service down below the group.
Now, I think we've got to describe the service triangle. So, the upside down triangle. At the top of the triangle are the groups. Right below that are the districts. And then and that's like my city. The city of Greensboro is a district. Below that are the areas. And then the areas elect a delegate, and the delegate represents the group conscience of those groups to the conference, and then that goes back down the triangle, or up, it goes back up the
Or back
triangle.
up the triangle,
I'm
exactly.
so
Yeah,
proud of my little service nerd.
exactly. So I started off years and years and years ago. I mean, probably 2 years after being sober, I'd left Dallas and moved to Nashville, Tennessee to pursue a career in country music.
Huh.
And while I was beating the streets on Music Row, some group that I was going to, I don't remember which one it was, had elected me to be a GSR. And I'm like, what's a
That's a
GSR?
general
And
service rep.
general service representative, and carrying the group conscience and to the area, to the districts and to the area. First, general service is not for everyone. But for those people who are interested in and let's just call it, for lack of better terms, the business side of Alcoholics Anonymous,
Mm-hmm.
how 12-step work is made possible, it's very, very informational. And I actually think it's very cool. But anyway, I did that and then I was done. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. That's not for me. And for 20 something years, I wasn't involved in service at that level. I sponsored people, took meetings to treatment centers, did correctional meetings and that kind of thing. But I didn't do general service until I had moved to New York City and got involved in general service, became GSR again, and then started working my way down the triangle. And I won't rattle off all of the positions that I've had, but I've had a fair amount. And then when I moved back to Texas in 2016, by God's grace, I served several functions and several positions at Area 65 Northeast Texas. And then in 2023 and 2024, I represented and served that area as their delegate to the General Service Conference.
What did you see then in general service that attracted you and felt like something that you needed to participate in?
One of the things that I love about general service is that, in theory, certainly as outlined in our service manual, because of the way the inverted triangle is put together, it is all designed to operate based upon the ultimate authority of the groups and what the groups, because they said at the very top, what can best serve the groups. And Bill did, I think, a really good job of putting together a structure that works. We have processes in place that allow us to be able to really listen to the groups and what can best serve the groups in the fellowship. I remember when I walked into the general session room of the conference, my first year, I walked in and there was no one else in the room. And I just looked at that room and I saw the banner, 73rd General Service Conference. And I remember having this feeling of, how is this my life? From that meeting that I walked into in Arlington, Texas, and telling that man that I wasn't an alcoholic, to I'm standing on the floor of the General Service Conference where I'm going to be one of 135 people making decisions for the whole of Alcoholics Anonymous. I couldn't see how that was my life, but incredibly grateful.
I think it's the conference that has held us together all this time, that's kept AA from splitting up into, for lack of a better word, denominations.
Sure.
Why has AA not done that?
It's a great question. And when you look at those that have gone before us, like the Washingtonians, that in fact did do that, allowed that division to occur, allowed those outside issues to come in and to mar what their primary purpose was. I think that we haven't done that because of Tradition 5. We are clear at every level that our primary purpose is to carry the message to the still suffering alcoholic, and that's it. Now, to your point about you think that the conference is what has held us together. I tend to agree with you, even through some incredibly difficult times. I sat at two conferences that were, I'll just use the word challenging, just because of the dynamic in the room. We were living with both years through trying to determine if we wanted to bring to the floor the plain language book, the plain language big book. And is that going to be something that is going to meet the needs of the fellowship? And there are a whole host of believers out there in it and a whole host of people who don't believe in that book. And I'm not going to get into that argument. But I will say the process of the conference at its core, foundationally, is put together in almost divinely, so that even you and the three of us could never screw it up, or those 135 people in any given year could not screw it up. I'm a big believer that if we do make a misstep somewhere along the way, AA course corrects. And through God's divine touch, it will get taken care of. It may not be immediate, but it will get taken care of. So I think that the conference is what helps hold us together.
Absolutely. Is there a moment in general service that affected you on a personal level?
In my day job, I for the last 25 years, I have worked for myself. I am an independent contractor, professional facilitator. Companies, I work mainly at the 501c3, not-for-profit professional trade association level, like American Dental Association, American Bar Association, those kinds of things. Just finished a project with the American Dermatological Association, where I work at the board of directors level, and I do a lot of strategic planning, help them build long-range strategic plans, leadership development, volunteer development, board development kind of stuff. So I do a lot of training, right? But most of those 501c3s are all volunteer driven. And so a lot of what I have learned in Alcoholics Anonymous through Concept 9, Concept 9 is my very favorite concept on leadership. But through my time and my active work in general service at the group, district, and area level, and even at the conference level, because I did get to chair a conference committee, I've learned how to play well in the sandbox with volunteers. And so I think because that work is spiritually based, and typically my work in my corporate world or my association world or my 501c3 world is not necessarily spiritually based, I have been able to see the transition between the two, going from volunteer leadership to transitioning into things like servant leadership, which is a movement out there in the world today, which I'm seeing more and more come into corporate America. So yeah, there's definitely been big things that have helped me a lot in my job.
If anybody has not read it, it's just an incredible essay in Concept 9 in the service manual on leadership that you can take into all areas of your life.
100%.
I just want to I want to give the reason why I sit here and have little giggle fits when Don talks about general services. That's because I got to watch him go from poo to general service to being a service nerd. And it has been so enjoyable.
Just 2 days ago, I was elected DCM for my district.
Right on. Congratulations.
I get to serve.
Folks, you can sign up to receive daily quotes at aagrapevine.org or read them every day in the Grapevine app. With respect to its own affairs, the collective conscience of the group will, given time, almost surely demonstrate its perfect dependability. The group conscience will, in the end, prove a far more infallible guide for group affairs than the decision of any individual member, however good or wise he may be. That's written by our co-founder, Bill W., in January 1948 on Tradition 2, and you can find that in the language of the heart. That I think
Yeah.
speaks to kind of what you've been talking about here, Rick, just the last things you
Absolutely.
were saying.
One of the things that has been such a blessing for me to be able to watch in the fellowship through my service, through showing up, through going to group conscience, whether it be at my home group district area or even the conference, is to really truly understand that we are a spiritual organization first and foremost. And while, I used to joke, I used to say all the time, the more I got involved in general service, I used to say, we are the most organized unorganization I have ever met. Or ever been a part of. But the reality is that it's a spiritual organization. And while we do have some layers that are involved, they're all spiritual layers. Bill talks at length about the fact that the group conscience is allowed to be wrong. And I have seen multiple examples. Certainly in my home group, when I served in Panel 65 in Area 49, Southeastern New York, as their area chair, I watched that area make some decisions that in the end were not in the best interest of that particular service entity and were able to course correct, right?
Mm.
And so, but I think that we just have to trust that as we're discussing, as we're becoming as informed as we possibly can be, that at that time, the group conscience is going to make the very best decision that it can at that moment. And if we find out that somewhere down the line it was the wrong decision, we can fix it.
Yes, indeed. The minority opinion, when it changes the way that something has been voted upon, it's an incredible experience. For folks that don't know what's going on there, when the body has come to a vote, a group conscience has been formed, a decision has been made, there is an opportunity for people who their side did not win can then present why they voted against it. And if that speaking to the why gives somebody who voted in the winning side a pause to reconsider, then they can step to the mic and put forward a motion to reconsider.
Sam, I am so grateful that you brought that up because it does happen, but I haven't seen it happen a lot. I did have an opportunity when I was chairing Area 49. There was a huge vote. I don't remember what it was for, but it was contentious, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And when the vote happened, as the chair, I asked, would anyone who was in the minority like to be heard? And we had, I want to say 5 or 6 people came to the microphone to express their minority opinion. But what was interesting wasn't, it wasn't 5 or 6 that had already shared in the previous original discussion. They, for whatever reason, they had brought some additional information that I remember I saw light bulbs popping on people's heads, right?
Yeah.
As this new information was brought, or it was brought in a manner in which it was so eloquently stated with so much heart and so much spirituality. Because when I called for the motion to reconsider, we did reconsider and the vote changed.
Yes.
The entire room, and it went the opposite direction. I remember talking to people after that, and I said, people kept telling me over and over and over, I had never thought about that way.
Yeah.
So, the minority opinion is not just important because it's good parliamentary procedure, but it is good because there might be an opportunity for me to hear another piece of information to ensure that we are making the most informed decision possible.
Wow. I think we squeezed all the juice out of that. Maybe if we squeeze a little harder, we could get just a little bit more. Rick, thanks so much for joining us today.
It has been my honor. Thank you guys for all of the hard work that you do. I love the podcast, and I have been a subscriber, and I love the app, and I am so incredibly grateful that you guys are doing, and of course the staff at Grapevine office in New York, and everyone who works hard, all of the trusted servants across the structure in the United States and Canada who work hard to make sure that the Grapevine and Lavinia are vital tools to our recovery today. I just want to say thank you.
And thank you to all those Grapevine reps in Grapevine.
Yes. 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 Yes.
The Grapevine and Lavinia apps are now available for both iOS and Android phones.
To get yours, go to the App Store on your phone and search for AA Grapevine or Lavinia.
Using the traditions in our lives. Folks, every month we ask past guests to share their experience with one of the 12 traditions. This being our first month, we're starting with Tradition 1. It reminds us that our recovery and serenity rest on unity, that together we can do what none of us could do alone. Tradition 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity.
I'm Suzy V, and I am an alcoholic. I would say one really great example that I think you kind of see in a lot of meetings is when somebody maybe becomes disruptive in a meeting. And when you're talking about common welfare, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So everybody's welcome. We don't kick anybody out. It's a very sticky subject because people really want that to be a true statement. And I think that it is. But as soon as somebody starts to cause harm to the common welfare of a group or AA as a whole, I think that needs to be handled. If you have somebody who's coming in and, for instance, getting really violent towards somebody in a group, I don't think that we just look the other way and, well, this person is injuring our common welfare of our group, so we need to ask this person to leave, or we need to call the police in, or we need however that has to be handled. But even something like people sharing for a really, really long time and not giving other people an opportunity. And maybe you have one person who shares for 10 minutes every single meeting just for their regular share. And you have 30 people in this meeting and you only meet for an hour. You may need to look at that and say, well, maybe we need to have a conversation with this person because that is affecting the common welfare of everybody else in our group.
I'm Angela B., an alcoholic from Lakewood, California. Let's just read a little bit. The unity of Alcoholics Anonymous is the most cherished quality our society has. Our lives, the lives of all to come, depend squarely upon it. They state it pretty clearly, and it's right there. We stay whole or AA dies, period. Without unity, the heart of AA would cease to beat. When I read that, I get chills. Because I know how important our unity is. Part of the problems that I'm seeing in general service today are when people disagree and won't come together and won't talk to each other. I believe that people who volunteer their time in general service are interested in keeping Alcoholics Anonymous going and figuring out the best way to do that. We come there with well-meaning hearts, well-meaning intentions. And sometimes our preconceived notions, our prejudice, our judgments get in the way. And it stops us from achieving the goal of how can we better serve or be there for the next incoming still suffering alcoholic. The other thing that there are many of us that have long-term sobriety and need that support still to feel like we are part of this amazing group of people, a society where we belong. These are my people. When I'm sitting in a meeting, feeling that connection, there I feel unified. I mean, we hear about people going out with 25, 30 years. Those people need this unity and they need to be supported just as much now. We need this now even more than ever so that we can give back to the sick and suffering. When they say the sick and suffering alcoholic, it doesn't mean the brand new newcomer necessarily coming through the door. I want to be one of those people to be there. I feel that unity still does exist. I think that we have it. I believe that we see it every time we get into an AA meeting, every time people show up for a home group meeting or a district meeting or an area meeting, and down the triangle we go. And to follow Bill in his quest to be open to change. I don't think that he wanted things to stay the same. He was a free thinker. He was a forward thinker. He wanted to grow and develop as society grew and developed along with him. I hope that folks continue to show up and do that work. I know that I'm willing to do that today.
I'm at the very wit's end. Early in recovery, a mother took her 6-year-old son to visit a friend at work. As one of the employees went to make coffee, her son followed her and asked,
"What are you doing?"
I'm making your mom's favorite drink.
"Wow, you know how to make whiskey?"
It's really not that funny. Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org, including our app and how to get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to know more about AA, visit aa.org or search online for Alcoholics Anonymous and your city.